Hi everyone and welcome back to Eleanor's restoration. As I said in the last video, Eleanor's back on the jig purely so that I can access the underside. And that's where this video is going to start, focusing on the underside. Once the underside's done, I can get her back off the jig, back on the subframes and on wheels. On wheels, a rolling shell. But, getting ahead of myself there. So this video is going to be split over a few days because it's going to involve sealing, sanding, priming, sanding, priming, sanding, priming, so on, so on, till I can get to undersealing and painting. But before I do all that, I've got stuff I need to order. What I have got and what I'm going to do a few hours of today is seam sealer. So, as we all know, the Mini is made up of lots of different panels that are spot welded together, and that leaves gaps. So, they were seam sealed in the factory to stop rust getting in, so they would never rust. So yeah, I've tried different seam sealers before, and I prefer the brushable one. I like the look, and I just like how easy as it's quite therapeutic putting on, and I quite like it once it's on. It's really solid and there's no water getting in at all. Tried a few different ones before. I'm going for this one this time. HP Body Pro S115. I'll let you know how it goes. I found with previous ones I did use the U-Pull one, which was good when you opened it, but after you'd closed it, left it for a bit and came back to it, it tended to go hard quite quick even when it was closed, so I'll see if this one's any better. So yeah, I'm starting with the underside. Basically I've done some as I've been going, but I'm going to go over it with this. All the seams I can find underneath. And I'm just basically going to start from the top, work my way down, and like I say, I think it's going to be quite therapeutic, so time lapse for the seam sealer. That stuff really does stink, so it's toxic. So if you're using this, bear in mind masks, irritant to skin, so gloves, and it's very flammable. So yeah, been round, got most of it. I think the underside in, I've still got the other areas to do. I'm purely focused on the underside just now because that's the bit I'm getting ready. I'm going to let that dry, and then I'll go around once it's dried to see if I'm happy with all the areas. If I'm not, I'll go over some of the bits again. I've seen a few bits at the back, there's slight surface rust creeping through, so I'm going to go through, get that off, get some acid etch on and treat it before it becomes an issue. It's obviously been where the metal's been left bare at some point, so yeah. But that's all I'm going to do on this for today. Once I've done that, as I said, I'm going to leave it to dry, come back. I need to invest in some tools and some paint, being an air compressor because my old one broke. So yeah, so next time I see you, I'll hopefully be ready for the paint stage, having done all this prep. Well, for the space of a week or two I've been coming in just checking all the seam sealer little bits that I've got gaps in, I've just been filling in to the point I'm at just now where I'm happy. If there's a tiny, tiny hole, water will find a way. So just take your time here and get it right. Now I can move on to getting this all sanded back to get a good key and primer. Now this is not a how-to video, this is me how I'm doing mine. There's a few different opinions out there about what goes on first, whether it be primer then sealer or sealer then primer. The way I did it, I made sure all the bare metal was covered up with acid etch, so there's no bare metal exposed. Acid etch is porous, so water can get in. So what I've done is I've done that, I've done the sealer to seal it off. I'm now going to look at epoxy primer. So epoxy primer gives a waterproof layer basically. So as long as it's covered in waterproof, it's got the sealant on, after that's going to be the Gravitex, so I'm happy with that way. But like I say, I'm not a professional, this is just how I'm doing mine, and I'll learn as I go, as I always said. So, likewise, some people might take all this back to bare metal and start from the bare metal. I'm quite content with this paint here. Had it been the cheaper panels I wouldn't have, because it's transit paint, it's not as good. So I'm happy to get this down to a key, and then I'm going to go for epoxy. Now, because it's the underside, I've got spray cans I need to use up. So I'll be using, quite good stuff actually, I've used it before, Pro P918 epoxy primer. 1K stuff because I just don't have the breathing apparatus or equipment for 2K. I don't want to poison myself, I don't want to poison the neighbours, so that's the route I've went down. Again, people will say a 2K finish gets you a better finish, a harder finish. I'll work with what I've got, and this is what I've got. So I'll stick it on the time lapse. I'll get as much of the bottom done as I can. Plan is to get the key, get a layer on, give it another key with some switch pads, and then I'll do 3 layers of this before I then look at the Gravitex. Now for the Gravitex I need an air compressor. Mine broke when I moved house, so I've got one being delivered. So that'll be here by the time I'm ready for this. So yeah, let's get cracking. So, all cleaned, ready for the epoxy primer. Not too fussed about the surface under here because it is getting Gravitex on it, so it's not going to be seen what's underneath. So it'll not get as much time spent in it as the top of the car does. But yeah, I just need to get masked up now. Gravitex, I'm doing up to the sill here. All of the underside, I'm leaving the back valance smooth on the outside. I'll be getting Gravitex on the inside. The inner arches will be getting Gravitex up to cross member on the bulkhead. I won't be doing the engine bay side of the wheel arches because I want that to be smooth, and I'll be doing that once the car's back on its wheels. So purely focusing on what I need to focus on just now while it's on the jig. So yeah, let's get her masked up. Okay, epoxy primer. I'm going to do the top half and then I'll spin the car around and I can focus on the bottom half, so I'll mask that off later. The reason I'm masking so much up here at the moment is basically because the primer will be okay because the top's getting primer, it can be flatted back, but when I do the Gravitex it'll go everywhere, so that's why I'm doing it just now to save me doing it later, twice basically. So I've waited a long time, but epoxy. Okay, first coat of epoxy is on and it's baking really well, so I'm going to let that dry, then I'll key it, get another couple of layers on, and then after that we're ready for Gravitex. I'm not going to show that on camera, I'll come back to you when I'm ready for that stage. There's a few runs which I'll sand back, I'm not concerned about that, but yeah, pleased with it at this stage. It's been a few days since the last footage you've seen and I've been busy off camera. All of my orders have now arrived, so I've got nearly everything I need. I'm still waiting on the top coat. But on the table here, I've got beneath the camera here, I've got my new compressor, the Gravitex I had, the lacquer, clear coat, thinners, epoxy primer, 415, that's not for this but that's for something else. And just in general repairs. The spray gun, just a cheap one for the priming stage, and water trap. Mixing solutions and a new mask. So yeah, we're good to go. This side of the camera, I'll show you on the little camera in a moment. I've done a makeshift painting booth, which can be taken down very quickly and didn't cost an awful lot of money at all. £22 and 5 minutes to be exact, and it just means that I can separate my two projects between the Mini and the camper van, keeping dust at one side and paint at the other. So yeah, I'll take you for a look around there. As I said, attached up to the ceiling just on hooks, and it separates the camper van on that side, painting on this side, and it keeps all my tools and storage dust free. So quite pleased. So it's been given its first coat, and I've just went round and given it a key with this switch pad, just so it roughens it up and means the next coat's a lot easier. Now the aerosols for that were actually alright, they went on okay, but for big areas they're not ideal. I've still got a few aerosols left which I'm going to keep for smaller repairs, but for this layer and the next layer of epoxy primer I'm going to test out my spray gun for the first time with the new compressor, because that's here now. Now it's the exact same type of epoxy, it's the 1K epoxy P981 HB, so it's the same, just with thinners and a paint gun. Plus it means it gets me practice using this gun on here before I do the Gravitex. So yeah, it's all about learning at this stage for me, and I'm quite enjoying it, I have to say. So I'm going to get the paint mixed up and I'm going to do this, and I'll give a comparison of how I prefer the paint gun to the aerosols. So the plan was to spray the epoxy primer as the second and third coat, but the gun wasn't working. First time using, it just wasn't working at all. So I'm getting a replacement part because it's just new, but I didn't want to wait, so I just went on with the aerosol and gave it the extra coats. So the epoxy is now done. It just needs rub back to key it, before I can look at U-Pol Gravitex, which is the next stage. So this has been drying now for about 3-4 days, so it's solid and hard. I would normally leave minimum of a day between looking at Gravitex, but it's fine. So I'm going to get it rubbed back and then I'll come back to you when I'm at the Gravitex stage. I'm quite excited to see it going on. I've seen it done, I've never done it, but I'm hoping it's quite therapeutic and it's going to transform the underside of this car. Okay, the first coat's on. Quite a light coat. I didn't want to go too heavy on the first coat, just to get it on. Some areas are a bit heavier than others, just me getting used to the gun and getting used to it because I've never done it before. But as I thought, it's very therapeutic. I really enjoyed it. Obviously I could have spun the jig round and worked other ways, but instead of doing upside down when the paint drops on you. But two things I learnt from that one: the pressure was alright, it went slower, it was okay. I set that at 40, so I could probably go slightly more, but I was happy with it. I needed to shake it a few times. I noticed the difference when it settled at the bottom. I shook it and it came out a lot better, so if you're doing this, just make sure you keep shaking the bottle. What I done was sit it in the sun for about an hour and it's loosened it off inside. You can put it in hot water and it just comes out a bit easier. You can on the bottle thin it down as well, it says, but I just used it neat because I wanted it to be as thick as it could. So this I done about 10 minutes ago and it's touch dry. So what I'm going to do, it's still wet at the front, what I'm going to do is I'll leave it a few hours, give it a quick key, give it another coat, same again, and I'm going to give it 3 coats. So 2 decent coats in the first coat there. That's just about 2 full bottles I've used just doing that first coat there, and you can see the area it covers. But yeah, really pleased with it, didn't know what to expect, and I'm looking forward to doing the rest. Okay, that's the third and final coat of Gravitex on, and I did really enjoy that. I love the texture, I love the feel, and it dries pretty quickly, to touch anyway. So next stage for this is the top coat, the flame red. I'm really looking forward to that stage as well, but I'll leave this to dry for at least 24 hours and then I'll see how it is then. If I feel it's going to take the paint then, I might go for it. If not, I'll give it maybe 48 hours and just go from there. So that's all I'm going to do for this today. Let the garage air out because it stinks, and let the Gravitex dry. See you at the next stage. Okay, it's another day. The Gravitex is on. Off camera I've scuffed it back with a Scotch pad so it's ready for the base coat. The new gun, hopefully working this time, is ready to go. What I've done this time that I never done last time was fill the water just to get the spray right by adjusting this to let the amount of paint in and this for the air, and quite happy with the spray I've got there. So I will grab the paint and I'll just let you know what paint is going on, and this will be the first time I see the flame red that's to go on Eleanor. I'm quite excited, I have to say that. Grab it. So there's different variations of flame red. I've went for the one that was right for this model in year. So flame red, basically the paint code is Rover COF. I went for the RFU, which is ready for use. So basically I don't have to add thinners. So it'll go straight into the gun, through the filter, and it's just ready to use. I've went for 5 litres. Hopefully that'll be enough. I'm not going to scrimp on paint because I want it to look good and I want it to be well protected. So yeah, I'm just going to get the filter in, fill it to about half. It says on this gun, which I didn't do last time, was don't go past 3/4. And for this gun it's to be used about a 40 psi, so I'll see how that goes when I do it. As I keep saying, I'm not an expert, I'm learning as I go, so trial and error. Probably more error than trial, but yeah. The paint, base coat, as I've went with the rest, is 1K. Basically, as I said, I don't want the poisonous side of the 2K getting into it, although people say it gets a better, stronger, harder finish. I'm prepared to use this and work a bit harder to get that finish. So yeah, again, it's all about learning. So I'll get the other camera set up and I'll see how this goes. I'm quite glad that it's going to be the underside, because if I make a mistake on this it'll sand back, plus it's not a smooth surface, it's on the Gravitex. So yeah, what have I got to lose? And how much money am I saving by doing this myself? Good mask, new one. First coat's on. It's a bit patchy in areas. I didn't want to go too thick with it being the first one. When I first started it was a bit spluttering. I was like, oh no, what's wrong here? The compressor was too low, so I've set it to about 2.5 bar, and that seems to put it on quite good. First time doing it, yeah, when you got the rhythm and overlapped as it shows you on people that know what they're doing's videos, it's good. However, when you get at different angles, upside down, that kind of goes ski whiff, and it does take a bit of technique, but I quite enjoyed it. Not as much as the Gravitex, that went on easier, but yeah, first coat, so I'm going to let this dry. I'll see how long it takes to touch dry, and then I'll go over it. My guess is it's going to take maybe 2, 3, possibly more coats, but we'll see when it dries. But first attempt, first look, yeah, I'm pleased. I'll do the same off camera I'm not going to film everything, just kind of jumping in and out. So I'll lightly scuff it when it's touch dry and then over it again, and I'll come back once I'm happy with the coats and we'll have a look at it then. Bit of time later, I've got 3 coats of top coat on now and I'm happy with the finish. I'm happy it's touch dry. Last stage is lacquer. So as with the others, 1K lacquer I'm using, it's U-POL Acrylic Smart Clear S2085-1. 2 coats recommended for that. So I've given this about 20-25 minutes to dry. I'm going to go over this. It says about 15-10 minutes between apply wet, and that should be it. So I'll come back once I've done lacquer. And there you go, it's done. Really pleased with the finish. It's good quality, I love the colour, and the lacquer just gives it that extra shine. Now it's underneath, does it need lacquer? I want it to look nice, and it just gives it extra protection on top of that base coat. The base coat I had recommended lacquer, so I've went with it. So in total, 3 layers of primer, 3 layers of top coat and 2 layers of lacquer, and that was half an hour ago and it's dry to touch. So I'm just going to leave this to sit for about a week now, just to fully harden. I'm not going to touch it, and yeah, that means I can then after that move on to the next stage. Now the next stage I'm looking at getting prepped to get back on subframes and wheels, so quite exciting. But I'm also looking at getting stuff done with Poppy the camper van. So yeah, really pleased. Hopefully you got something from this video. As I've said, I am not a professional in any way. I'm learning as I go and I'm really enjoying it. I would have to say thanks to quite a few people who I've got tips and advice from. Really good mini group, and yeah, can't thank them enough. But I would also recommend giving it a go yourself, because this, when I last quoted about 3-4 years ago, was about £4,000 or £5,000 for the whole respray, and I'm glad I've done the underside now because it gives me the confidence and the technique I feel to go and do the rest. I've got the inside next, and then the outside I can tackle. I will get a better gun for that. That's the second gun that I've had from SGS and it's broken. So it's sprayed well enough, but yeah, it's just cheaply made, so yeah, I would recommend a decent gun. So I'll end that one there. I'll say thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers!